Hello! Welcome to Escaping Dystopia. I'm a happy little beet. Ha ha! Welcome to Escaping Dystopia. I'm a beet. My name is Roy. I will be your host. As is our tradition here, as we go through the news for the week first, we're going to do behind our little mask of objectivity. We'll just give you the facts. Today is episode 62, August 15th, 2018. Blue Waves, Prosecution rests, and President Fumes. So, quick bit of housekeeping before we start going through the straight news first. So apparently Facebook changed the way they save things, and if you do stuff in your My Story and do not archive it, or don't have archiving on, I guess, it will lose it. Long story short, episodes 54, 55, 57, 59, and 60 appear to be lost to history. As I've mentioned a couple times, I've been building an archive of other shows and a couple website stuff, and I'm a beat, for those of you just joining the show. So I lost like 5 episodes, which sucks. I think I know why, and part of it was because I didn't download them immediately, and then they lost them, because, who cares about that stuff? Anyway, we're going to do better on that, but just thought I'd tell you to whine for a moment. So, on to the news. As noted, our new thing here is where we go through basically the big stories, just tell you the facts, and then we'll go through it again and kind of give a bit more of that oh-so-special feeling that everybody knows and loves. Probably the big news over the last 2 weeks, the Paul Manafort trial. The prosecution rested after 12 days. There was no defense presented as far as witnesses or evidence go. They cross-examined the main witness, who was his business partner. His business partner testified that they broke the law constantly, and also that he was a liar, a thief, and a cheater. So his side was that Manafort broke the law constantly. The defense's side was that, well, this guy's a liar, a thief, and a cheater. There are some odd issues with the judge, but we'll see how the ruling comes out here in the next little while. So we'll see what happens with Paul Manafort. Infowars, bans and suspensions. The great and crazy and ridiculously... Okay, sorry, doing just the facts. Infowars got banned from a number of platforms this last week. And as of, I believe, this morning, they were suspended on Twitter for a week for violating their terms. We'll talk about that a little bit later. That's about all the facts we'll cover on that for the moment. During the last couple of weeks, during the Russia investigation, the President of the United States admitted that his son took a meeting with to get dirt on a political rival with unregistered foreign agents. There was literally a translator at the meeting. This was admitted to on Twitter after previous denials that the meeting happened, that anything was there, and various other denials and changes. So now we have a very clear picture of what the meeting was for and who was there. The Omarosa Event. Oh, wow. So, Omarosa Manigault, I guess is her name. She got fired by the president. There are tapes. Lots of tapes. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The immigration update. The government has been trying to generally shirk their responsibility for the families that they separated, happy tulip face, and took those parents and deported them, happy tulip face, without their children, oftentimes not perhaps fully informing them of their rights as human beings. Those human rights were likely violated. We'll see how this continues to go through the courts. The judges, federal judges that have been overseeing this, have appeared to be losing patience. We'll talk about that more later as well. The president, in the last couple weeks, the president of the United States lied about waiting for the Queen of England. In fact, as was shown on TV, he was late for the appointment. We'll talk about why that is important later. The Unite the Right Rally 2 was a big bust in Washington this last weekend. There appeared to be more media representatives there than Nazis. California wildfires. California has had its largest wildfire in its known history this last number of weeks. We'll talk about that, some of the responses to that, and some of the other possible reasons for that. Some of the main ones include the continued climate that is changing, as well as some mismanagement of those forests. We'll talk a little bit more about how those things are being used. Immigration hypocrisy. Just the facts here. Stephen Miller's uncle, I believe it was, came out and gave their family history, which included lots of chain migration. Also in the last couple weeks, the First Lady's parents were granted citizenship via the same chain migration that the president condemns constantly. Happy turnip face. Asbestos, Russia, and you. The EPA is exploring various possible uses for asbestos in American manufacturing. The largest miner of asbestos, it is a naturally occurring substance, is Russia. And I believe they are the only country that currently exports asbestos. Which, by the way, we know gives you a certain type of cancer. It's called mesothelioma. For you... Anyway, just the facts. Space Force! We're going to have a Space Force. Okay? Wage data came out, and over the last 6 months, we've seen general wages drop by slightly less than 0.5%. Corporate profits have been actually quite large, whereas the federal deficit has been soaring. Anybody who knows how to do math and understands what incentivizes businesses to pay more money is not surprised in the slightest by this. The Devin Nunes was audio taped admitting that the Republican majority is all that is protecting the president from everything. Prison, treason, blah, 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 blah. I'm a turnip, yo! Or maybe a peach. I could be a peach. I'm peachy. Peachy keen, man. What time is it in Japan? That's what I want to know. What time is it in Japan? For those who don't know, that's where my friend is. Wage data. And then we got a couple bits of genius. If you make it all the way to the end of the show, got a couple bits of genius to share with you. All right, so those are the facts. I guess calling bits of genius facts is a bit much, isn't it? All right, kiddos, let's turn this off. Oh, no, I'm a sad strawberry. That's amazing. I love it. I'm a sad strawberry. Not for long. All right, now you guys are going to have to look at Real Roy. Ha ha ha. Sorry. I still have too much fun with this stuff. 11 a.m. What day is it? I guess it's yesterday? No, it's this morning. Yes, it's still this morning. Is that right? No, it's tomorrow there. No. Dateline's in Europe. I don't know. Good to hear from you. I know, right? Not going to do the whole orange thing. So going back, now we get to talk about the stuff that happened. Housekeeping. Yeah, I lost a bunch of episodes. I was going back through to save stuff and to post it, and apparently Facebook doesn't save things if you don't if you don't turn on archiving in your story shit, whatever the hell. I still don't know what the story stuff is. If somebody wants to explain that to me. Apparently that's something that some Twittergram has, so Facebook had to copy it. I'm old. I get to be ignorant of stuff now. It's great. I love it. I should probably do Instagram. I don't know. Is that where you do pictures, right? So anyway, the Manafort trial. So they did 12 days of this, basically have him dead to rights on literally, if the question is did he break the law, yes, there's no question, because we have all the bank records, we have emails, we have knowledge, we have intent, opportunity, evidence, all the business. I think they're either hoping for some sort of jury nullification, Or, I don't know, maybe they're planning on waiting to see what's going to happen, and then they'll see if they make a deal on that. But he looks to be dead to rights. So the defense didn't really present anything. It's kind of hard if you don't have a really good like alternate story. And in this case, you really don't, I don't think. I mean, they ran a business that kind of just ignored tax law and took money from international people and hid it. I don't think it's particularly uncommon in that business, but it's still illegal as hell, and especially when you're the chairman of the campaign for the president of the United States. That's, again... So, the judge was a little odd in this. Castigated the defense a number of times for things that weren't right, like got mad at them for having a witness there the whole time, despite giving them explicit permission to do so. I thought was one example. But anyway, so we'll see what happens on that. They might be just going for, appeals to the Supreme Court, and then hope they can get that other guy in there before that happens. I don't know what the strategy is there, or if they're just going to see what happens. Infowars, finally, fucking A. On the pardon stuff, I don't think they can actually pardon a number of these. So I don't think it's all. I thought it was in the state court that they're doing, and you can only pardon for federal crimes. Whoops! That's why I think they're gonna. And this isn't all of Manafort's charges either. This is only, I think, one section of the stuff that can lead him to life in prison. And I think the idea is to get this and be like, hey. So we can go double up this life, or you can talk. So we'll see what happens. I'll talk about later why, if that matters or not, or what's going to happen. Infowars bans and special, like I said. They expanded to a week on Twitter today. People have been noticing, by the way, because they picked through some of Jones's old stuff, like, doesn't this violate your terms? So they'd tell him, and he'd remove it. Like, he's not violating terms. I don't know why. There is a severe lack of responsibility for the tech world, and this has been this is more a philosophical thing, but of understanding the power that you're giving to people. Longer discussion on trolls and the internet fuckwad theory. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. There's a good Penny Arcade. Is it Penny Arcade? Yeah, that does the comic strip, the greater internet fuckwad theory. Which is essentially you take a hormonal teenage boy, add the internet, add anonymity, and you will get a shitstorm, the likes of which you can only imagine from this kind of energy and this kind of intellect that's unbounded and untrained and has all the time in the effing world. And welcome to the troll factory of the internet. Unfortunately, this kind of feeds into the alt-right and a lot of the cultural changes that we're seeing as well. This is a whole show, and this is a theme we keep talking about, but this is a lot of that... I was going to talk a little bit about that stupid Q conspiracy theory, which kind of seems to be eating itself a little bit. This is one of those things where the light of day is a pretty good infectant for how stupidly ridiculous this is, and also it's kind of a weird balancing act, like whether or not becoming aware of something like this inoculates you against it, right, or infects you. And even if you go to the natural world and in germ theory, that the difference is between, and I think I'm being a little bit flippant, because vaccines aren't just weakened viruses. I don't think. I'm not an expert on that. Oh shit, here comes the conspiracies on those. But the idea is that you're training your body to be aware of something, so when that actually attacks you in real life, your body knows how to work. And this works really, really fucking well, people. I mean, like, germ theory is a real thing. Like, vaccines work, right? The fact that I can't explain to you exactly how many... And there's actually a thing that I talk about, and I read this thing a while back, and the number of... I didn't write all this down, so I wasn't going to think about it tonight, but the number of active ingredients in vaccines has actually come down a great deal over the last 20, 30 years as we've learned how the immune system actually learns and works, and we realized we didn't need that much. And so they've brought that down while still getting the same result of training the body. Some of this stuff is training the mind to have an inoculation against these kind of conspiracy theories, the kind of questions and approach you can take to seeing this kind of strange information. I hope this younger generation becomes a little bit more inured and immune to this kind of stuff, and I think long-term exposure to the internet will help with that. And I think we have in some of the boomer population people who are extremely when your immune system is not quite as strong as it should be, they're immunocompromised when it comes to conspiracy theory, particularly some of this stuff. And then people give them a few threads to touch, and then you head down an internet hole, and you're not familiar with how internet holes work, and you end up thinking that it matters. But get out of that internet hole, take some time and look around and see if anybody else finds any of this crap the slightest bit realistic. Anyway, I was going to talk a little bit about how to fix this, but that's part of it. Bring it into the light. Things like having, like, and this has been, I've seen this happen I've been on the internet for a long time. I've watched communities grow and die and crumble, and some just keep going on, and you have to know that you're going to have to deal with this. The internet is, when you open it up, and it'd be great if we could have, an open world and there were no locks on anything, and I would love to see that world, but humans, we haven't figured out how to do that yet. And I think we're a good long way from that. So, internet fuckwad theory is real. And I've learned this, and I haven't really talked much about this on the show, but we had this guy liked to break into my garage and take stuff. So I had to, get everything all locked down. And now I have, and now he can't get in, and he's not coming back anymore. And that's the world and the internet. There's people out there who want to take those shortcuts just for either lulls or whatever. So you got to stand against them, unfortunately. The idea is to do so without having that become your only thing that you do. So, anyway, reputation tracking, removal of pure anonymity, adding some cost to registration and usership. I know everybody's kind of come to expect things for free, but after a little while, now that the internet is here and mature, I think we'll see some more stuff that it becomes worthwhile to pay to cut down on the fuckwads. By the way, in Infowars, I posted the picture of this. Infowars itself retains the right to ban users and remove content for people who violate their terms of service. They do this a lot, because that's Internet Fuckwad Central, so they have to. And if you've ever tried to interact on right-wing forums, or you ever wondered why certain places are like, why is this is all so stupid, how is nobody disagreeing? And then you try and disagree on a right-wing forum, and then you're like, oh, I just got banned. And it's particularly, and you guys have seen a little bit of my style for communicating with right-wing ideologues, and if you get a good one on them, you just get banned. And it happens constantly, and it's very consistent. Again, this is an authoritarian ideology, not one that, advocates or even looks for dissent or looking for, well, give me another idea. This is, again, right-wing ideology. It's not rocket science. Do they reject rocket science right now? I don't know. Space Force! So, the Omarosa Event. Omarosa. Hey, I think I watched some of that first season of The Apprentice. Was that where she was? And I was like, this person is horrible. I was like, yeah, they're just cutting it and just editing it. I was like, I don't know how you could edit any of this to make this person not look horrible. But so there was no way that she was going to keep lasting. And then when she comes out and once you burn her like that, she's going to burn your back. So that keeps coming out. That's what the last week or so, or I guess last few days have been. She's got a book coming out and definitely selling the book. The president came out after her hard and called her a dog. And this is one of those, again, this is, that's not the only horrible racist kind of thing he's done. It's not, that one not particularly racist. He calls some people dogs quite a bit. The fact that he also insulted her in a number of other ways, and then you also had the situation where they asked one of the other senior advisors, so can you name anybody who's not white who works for you people in the White House? And no, it's a White House. And it has been for a number of months now, remember. It's not like she just got fired. She got fired like at the beginning of the year. And then wrote a book. And apparently taped everything. What was it? The Diamond Age with Neil Stevenson? One of his books, there were these characters, and this is in the future book, and they were called gargoyles, I think. And they were people who would walk around with cameras and stuff facing every direction, and then kind of upload that feed into the public kind of feed, and then depending on how many people downloaded, they'd have copyright to all of it, so anybody who used it would, like, that's how they make their money, right? They just walk around and record everything, and then if something happens, they get the copyright for it. I think that's what Omarosa did. She just recorded everything. So, with the end tape, apparently, I don't doubt that this exists. We've already heard the president bragging about sexually assaulting women on tape. So I don't know what else, where else you can go with always on tape. Now, I have, and my wife pointed out that for a lot of particular white people, unless you are out there saying flat out, calling people the N-word and doing it in a nasty voice, you can't possibly be racist. So this could be a dam breaker for that, because there's about, 35% support, whereas when you cut it down to just hardcore, like real nasty-ass racists, I'd put it more like 10-15% of white people. And so I think that's how far he can fall if this were to come out, and it would be pretty clear. He called LeBron James stupid, and I don't, and it's one of those things too where he do it on Twitter, and I don't know if it's even him or just one of his. It's probably him because I think he likes to actually do that, but I don't think he would never do that in person, right? I mean, he's not somebody who would say that to LeBron's face. He would do it on Twitter and kind of backhanded try and call him dumb there. And this is actually because LeBron James, for those of you who don't know, is a big basketball star. He just signed a massively huge contract where he now owns a good portion of the city of Los Angeles, apparently. But he's using some of that money to pay for students back in Cleveland to guarantee them college and transportation to school. Basically let them act like they live in a civilized country. For a school in Cleveland, which is great. I think that's wonderful. I talked about this before. I'd like to see public funding for all of these things for everybody, since we can afford it if we were to actually tax things. But we don't. The thing about this is Omarosa, I guess, has been fired 4 times now by Trump, which means she's been hired 4 times. When I was thinking about this, there's a guy I follow, Jim Wright. He wrote a nice little thing about this. I was going to read it. He goes, when the business consistently employs thieves, liars, frauds, cheats, chiselers, mountebanks, charlatans, quacks, crooks, hustlers, swindlers, grifters, flim-flam artists, fleecers, conspiracy nuts, double-crossers, double-dealers, draft dodgers, layabouts, pretenders, hypocrites, imposters, malingers, phonies, fools, fops, two-timers, perjurers, prevaricators, looters, heels, snakes, holy joes, and abject failures, sooner or later, you have to start wondering about the guy doing the hiring. Which I think most of you folks know. There's a reason why he keeps hiring horrible people. To move on, some of the other fallout from the horrible stuff, the government is trying to shirk their responsibility and lie about the family separation stuff that they were doing. I don't know what the latest numbers are, but it's in the several hundreds of parents who were separated from their children and have not been reunited, and the government doesn't plan to, and is having to be ordered by judges to even acknowledge that it is their responsibility to fix this. They've been trying to push it off on the ACLU or anybody else they can. I would hope that there would be some more we'll see more stories about this. A lot of these are heartbreaking. We also saw a number in the last couple weeks of the sexual abuse cases that have come out from these. When you have these kind of situations, again, with the dehumanization and just the power and control and claiming these people have no rights and no place and no home and there's no one... Bad things happen. And bad things happen more often in those kind of situations, which is why you want to avoid all of that as much as you can. We'll keep following up there. I would love to be a big part of the reason for the blue wave that I do think is coming, that it looks like we're going to see, barring something happening interesting. We're about 90 days out from voting time. The immigration update, got that. Alright, so the president, and this is one of those things, the president lied about waiting for the Queen, right? When he was in the UK, he had a meeting with the Queen of England. Apparently made her wait. I'm not a huge royal watcher, and I don't have cable, so I don't really follow all this crap that close. But I saw the clips later, and apparently people in the UK are like, man, that's kind of shitty. And then he came out and tried to blame her, that he was on time and she was late. He lies a lot, and I think a lot of people have seen how much he lies. To me, and I've made this point before, I'll make it again, when you talk about fascism from government, and one as powerful as ours, to me it is the lies that are the fascism. Because once they can lie, and once they can get away with lying, and just saying whatever, and just giving whatever explanation for that, and this that's because of them, and that's because of this, and that didn't happen, and this is actually happening the other way. Once you give up the notion of truth, especially in this context, the game is off. And that's why that's why the attacks on the media are so fundamental to getting away with this, because that's who counteracts the bullshit. And like them or not, that's what their job is. The Twitter thing that I talked about earlier, Jack Dorsey, he's one of the guys, and he's like, well, that's the media's job, is to counteract these conspiracy theories and all that. And it really just irks me that not so much, because you're just giving a megaphone and you're accelerating the stupid and giving them more power to get these idiotic ideas and saying, well, you journalists need to refute them. It's like, well, there's this pen right here. There's one pen on my desk, right now. So that's the truth. There's one pen here. Lies are way bigger than that. You can say there's 10, 100, 50 million, 10 million, 50, every number in between. There's only one. That's the truth. There's only one pen. But somebody could say, oh, there's 50, or there's 100, or there's all these, and it's to refute all those lies takes way more energy. And it's so easy, especially now with the bots and the other kind of just ways that you can multiply digital presence, to have to force someone to spend their expensive human time refuting these lies that you've amplified. That's not fair, and that's why we're losing. Because we're not paying attention to the power that a lot of these companies have created. And I think it's gotten a little bit beyond us. I do think we're going to see some kind of regulation of this, but so when you say that and you think about who's in control now, that becomes a very scary thought, is it not? But that's the idea, to try and limit some of this power. But this is a bigger question, and it's a big question. And it's a big question moving forward on how our media system works and can police itself, and to the degree that we need to. Because, or how we need to. Getting a little vague, so we'll move on. The Unite the Nazis rally was a big failure, as it should have been. Apparently a lot of the right-wing groups didn't want to go with the guy who was organizing it. A video came out of him doing something like I'm doing here. But about this time in the video, his dad came into the room and yelled at him. That's probably not going to happen, A, because my father passed many years ago, and this is my house. So the fact that the Unite the Right leaders are this, they're a bunch of fucking losers. And this is the thing that's really annoying about this, is how the degree that free media stuff, I was talking about this, and again, this goes back to our media system, where we have these big cable companies that have this just basically cash machine, as long as they can keep putting stuff that keeps people watching. But what they're putting out and what people are watching, these situations where you have more people with cameras highlighting this small event and making it seem large. I think there's a nice cartoon I saw that covered that pretty good. Excuse me. Alright, running up on it, we'll finish a few of these. California wildfires. California continues to burn, as I think we've kind of expected this for a while. This was certainly predicted by the scientists who saw the planet changing. By the way, we hit like 90-something degrees in the Arctic Circle this summer for the first time ever. Woohoo! It's like 13 to 30 degrees warmer than it is normally. The place where this happened, where it was like 90, 91 degrees, normally during the 3-month warm season, the high is about 62. It hit 90. A lot of the heat has been gathering at the poles. Certainly the North Pole. We had the stupid tweet from the president about the wildfires that made no sense whatsoever. We did have the Secretary of the Interior going after, quote, environmental terrorists that caused, and I don't know if he said cause, but help push these fires worse by basically trying to keep forests not being logged. You're going to see a big push, I think, once this fire season is over, for relaxed regulations for going into these national forests and thinning them out to cut the fire danger, which will probably look like clear-cut logging from the outside. If it's logged, it ain't burning. You'll see that. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. The thing that's difficult about that is, again, some of the resistance to that led to a little bit of this extra undergrowth, from my understanding, that makes the fires a little bit worse, but not nearly as much as the whole planet getting warmer, and, well, what you gonna do? Alright, moving on real quick. Stephen Miller is a hypocrite when it comes to immigration. We knew this. The guy's a slimeball. So, his family came through chain migration. The president's wife, the first lady's family, in the last couple months, got their naturalization here in the U.S. This is literally what family-based migration is, aka that chain migration. They are the same thing. They are, aka how immigration usually has worked through the history of this country. But the president, who is pretty clearly a racist at this point, wants to stop that. Stephen Miller is no doubt a racist. Is the driving force between this. This sucks. That's what it is right now. Yeah, they want to import asbestos. I don't know how far that's going to go, but they're trying, and there's some big money there. So, Space Force. Until we see Congress pass something, I don't know how this is going to, quote, get off the ground. Ha! Huns! But we used to have the idea that we weren't going to militarize space. And I'm surprised this hasn't gotten into the conspiracy theory yet, that the reason why he's doing this is because we got confirmation that there's aliens out there, and so now we got to get a Space Force ready, and that's his first reaction, is kill it and shoot it. This is where it sucks when you think back all those movies, and get the president, take us to your leader. No! We're just not going to do that. How about you just talk to me? I'll represent. We're not gonna take it in. Because he sucks. Speaking of which, wages are down. There's been a few graphs on this. This will come into starker relief after the end of the fiscal year in October, when we show how much money we extra spent this year. Extra spending is what they'll probably start calling it. Some sort of thing where they can, well, it's extra spending. Democrats love spending. It's probably the Democrats' fault. You'll see it. We're going to run like $700-800 billion deficit this year. Should be going down. because unemployment keeps going down, but it's not. So wages are not going up. So the idea that all this corporate tax cut would be passed on to workers, if you fell for that, you're just a sucker. You a sucker. You a sucker. Nunes. Devin Nunes. He's a congressperson from Colorado. Or excuse me, pardon me. California. It's a different sea further west. He basically got caught on tape saying that if they lose the majority, the Republicans lose the majority, the president loses his protection in the House. Remember, the House Intelligence Committee ended their Russia investigation months ago before the president admitted on Twitter that his son took a meeting with the Russians to get dirt on his opponent. So just so you know. And then he admitted that during this fundraiser that basically without them, he'd already be in prison. So, blue wave, folks. Go and vote for Democrats for Congress. I'm being very impartial. But it's probably the correct thing to do for the country. It's very clear. Alright, and now we're done. And so, as I said, if you make it all the way to the end, thank you for making it all the way in. You few who did. Appreciate it. 2 bits of genius. First, women and food. I posted this, so if you follow everything that I post, which I don't think Facebook will even show it to you when I post a bunch, this guy cracked the code. So I don't know if you have ever dealt with a woman. Yeah, I'm going to be sexist for a minute. I'm just kidding. Women are great. I love women. If you have ever tried to eat with a woman, well, honey, where you want to go eat? Oh man, it's not even gonna. So somebody figured out how to do this right, and the idea is you don't ask directly. You ask indirectly. You say, honey, I got a surprise for you. Taking you out to dinner. Ooh, where are we going? Where are we going? I don't know. See if you can guess. Guess. Whatever she says, that's where you're going. See, very, very sneaky. And I saw that, and I think it's a wonderful way sometimes to think about stuff without thinking it, and to ask yourself a different question. And that's sometimes just a wonderful way to just get around problems. Just ask yourself the same question a different way. And that's the hard part, to think about that. How can I ask the same thing, something else? If you didn't have to actually answer my question, what would you think about answering my question? Very, very smart. And then the last one was the millions versus billions mind concept. These terms, and I do a lot of math, and I see a lot of big numbers. I was looking at numbers today, both in the millions and billions. So, I have a pretty good sense of these. But a lot of people who don't work with numbers every day kind of forget that when we're talking about these. And so 1 million seconds is about 12 days. 1 billion seconds is over 31 years. 1 trillion seconds, and when we start talking about $1 trillion deficits, 1 trillion seconds, about 31,000 years, longer than human history. So when you talk about millions, 1,000 million, billion, this is in English, American English, which I guess is kind of tough, because billions mean different in other Englishes. Isn't English fun? Haha! So in American English, call it Tex English, you got 1 million, 12 days, billion, 31 years, trillion, 31,000 years. $1 trillion deficits. Coming soon. Tax cuts! Alright. That's it, folks. That's all I got. I think I covered everything. It's been a couple weeks. I'm enjoying doing the show, so we're going to keep doing it. Hopefully I can not lose them in the future, because that sucks. Because it's not like this doesn't take a little bit of effort. But it does, and it's all good. So anyway, peace out. Y'all be good. Find some candidates and give them money so they can win. Because as much as we'd like it to not be that way, in order to get messages out and effectively communicate in a capitalist society with huge income and equity, it takes money. So try and help them, because this election is very important. Thank you, and have a nice week.